Burlesque Stripped Down, episode number 1. Hello guys and gals, this is Velvet Eau Claire. Of course, I am your guide to all of the sexy, saucy secrets of the ladies and gents behind the tassels. This is episode number 1. Hopefully some of you may have caught our little teaser episode where we discussed what burlesque is and what it isn't. But today I am very excited to be bringing you the very first official interview episode of Burlesque Stripped Down, where I am talking to one of my absolute favorite performers in all of Paris. But before I get to this lovely lady, just a few announcements. Of course, if you're not familiar with our structure yet, what we're going to be doing here on Burlesque Stripped Down is Mondays we'll be bringing you interviews with some of the industry's hottest stars. I have several pre-recorded and ready to go, and I am super, super excited to share them with you. And then on Thursdays are our hot tips episodes. So all sorts of things. This Thursday, I'll be telling you all about how to survive your very first burlesque performance, which, as any performer can tell you, is a bit scary. So that's Mondays and Thursdays. If you're more of a reader over on the blog, on Tuesdays, I'll be doing off-topic Tuesdays, just with a little bit of whatever I want in there. And on Sundays, we'll be doing event roundups with events from around the world. Speaking of which, if you have an event that you'd like to see featured, please don't hesitate to email me, velvet@burlesquestrippeddown. My very last request is if you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review to this podcast. It's really going to help me get the word out there and get more people listening to it, which means that I can sustain doing this longer, which I really, really want to make work. So if you're not sure how to do that, no problem. In the show notes for this episode, you can find a graphic that will tell you exactly how to do it. It takes about 5 minutes. It's very easy. The show notes are going to include any links from this episode, and you can find that at burlesquestrippeddown.com/Kirby, Kirby. All right, so now that I teased her name a little bit, let's get right into the interview. All right, guys, so we've got a nice rainy, dreary day today here in France, but I am super pumped to have Miss Kirby Marzelle on the show. I have seen Kirby perform several times here in Paris, and I gotta say, her numbers are just always my favorites of the entire show. Aww. She is renowned for her theatrical wiles, she's got killer choreography, and of course, that quintessential American charm. Those things make Kirby really one of the most versatile and sought-after freelance performers here in Paris. Her work is super unique and eclectic, and she does shows that range everywhere from the golden age of striptease to theatrical performance art to vintage sideshow and really everywhere in between. So welcome, Kirby. How you doing over there? You staying dry in your corner of Paris?
I am. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great. Yeah, it's it's one of those days. We needed the rain here, I think, but it's still a little tough. But
we'll manage.
Yeah, we'll manage somehow. Before we get started with any of the bigger questions, why don't you just take a quick second, say hi to everybody, and fill in anything that I missed up in that intro.
Well, I think you pretty much covered it. Hi, everybody. My name is Kirby Marzelle. Along with everything that Kate mentioned, I'd also like to say that I'm the production manager and assistant artistic director of the Letting Go Cabaret here in Paris. We produce a multidisciplinary cabaret variety show once a month at the Bellevilloise. And we're also part of a larger production company that produces events all around Paris.
Yeah, it's great. I've seen a couple of the cabaret shows. It's phenomenal. You guys have a great range. You bring in people from all over the world to come in and perform with you. Mm-hmm. It's really fun.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I saw you guys have something coming up not far from me actually here at the at Sullivan's by the Mill by the Moulin Rouge, right? You guys got to show up there
starting in November. I believe it's going to be once every 2 months. We're going to be doing a collaboration with I believe his name is Paddy Sherlock.
Sounds Irish. Is he Irish?
I believe he is.
It sounds a bit Irish.
In person. But it's going to be called Beauties and the Beasts. And it's going to be burlesque set to live jazz. So it should be so cool. Really fun. We're really looking forward to it.
Well, that's going to be awesome. Like I said, it's around the corner from me, so I will probably be there for every show.
November 21st, if I'm not mistaken, at O'Sullivan's in Pigalle.
That's great. Yep. I think it's right by Pigalle and Blanche Metro as well, right by the Moulin Rouge. So fun. Cool. So you've got that going on. You've got lots of cool letting go cabaret things. What is something that you have going on that you are the most excited about right now? What is the number one thing?
Um,
It's a big question.
It is a big question. I mean, like, one of the interesting things about being like a freelance cabaret artist is that we know we know so little in advance. Like, I mean, a lot of things
Sure.
kind of happen spur of the moment, last minute. So it's hard to like look forward to like one particular thing. I find I'm always looking forward to working with new people. I'm always looking forward to like new collaborations in any type of way. I'm looking forward to working on projects outside of burlesque. I'm looking forward to doing more like theatrical type performances, which kind of goes more back to like my roots, like my past is in theater and dance. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
I'm excited for it all. There's no like one like specific project. I mean, I just
cool.
feel happy to have the opportunity to do so many things.
For sure.
So,
Absolutely. I mean,
you know,
really, life is
on.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, being a freelance artist, that's the best thing, because you can do all these different projects and you're not even sure. I mean, 6 months from now, you could have the most amazing thing going on. You have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
It's great. Cool. So, what do you think is another loaded question, but what is the biggest misconception about you and why, if there are any?
I would say, probably that I am, you know, specifically a burlesque artist. I mean, kind of like I was like mentioning before, like actually I have like a background that where I started was in theater and dance. And so, like I said, kind of in the future, I'm looking forward to more kind of like expanding or at least going back to my roots in that way. And like anytime I get an opportunity to do something other than burlesque, I jump on it. Because as much as I love burlesque, I really I feel like theater is kind of like where my heart is. So I'm kind of like exploring some ideas about like eventually creating my own show that might be a theatrical one woman show. We'll see. So I'd say that was like the biggest misconception, that like burlesque is like the only thing I do. I sing.
Absolutely.
I sing as well. I should mention that. I'm trying to get more into singing as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And for that, the Beauties and the Beasts thing, or whichever, what is it? Beauties and the Beast?
Beauties and the Beast.
Voila. Are you going to be singing for that as well? Do you think?
I don't know.
Awesome.
I don't think I don't think that was necessarily part of the plan.
Gotcha.
I could always propose the idea, but yeah, like I think we already have a pretty fabulous band,
Okay.
complete with singers. But who knows? Who knows?
Gotcha.
Down the line.
Sure. Yeah, that is true, though. You make a good point about, sometimes we do get pigeonholed. I think we like to, human nature is to put labels on people, right?
Yeah.
So we do sometimes get pigeonholed into that thing. And so it's important to work out all of our creative muscles in different ways and everything. And I think there's a big niche, a hole maybe even here in Paris and maybe around the world as well, for doing more theatrical combination with burlesque, or somehow some sort of combination that way. In my opinion, right. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it depends. We'll have to see. It's like one of those things. Like everything is so like there's so many possibilities. Like the possibilities are so endless in theater and burlesque and all these like cabaret variety things. I mean, like
absolutely,
you can create whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. It's really exciting. I think that's one of the things I love the most about burlesque, is that you can kind of do whatever you want with it and and create new things and do all of that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So when did you know that burlesque was right for you, or do you know, or is it, we mentioned it's one of your many passions. So what really drew you into it and made you realize that this is something you wanted to do?
Basically, when I realized all the freedom attached to it, like. Burlesque is such an individualistic art form that it's going to manifest itself differently in each person. And so I think that makes it potentially really dynamic to watch and really, fascinating to be a part of. And just the fact that, anyone and everyone, especially women, but not exclusive to women, can express themselves creatively and physically and manifest that on stage, and especially manifesting creativity in our bodies. I think that's so important in a society that marginalizes women in pretty much every way.
Absolutely.
So yeah, just the freedom to be able to to express myself physically, creatively, sexually on stage how I want. That's the greatest thing about burlesque.
That's great.
That's what makes it something that appeals so much to women, and something that makes it a primarily female driven art form.
Did you find that there was maybe a particular performer or a number that inspired you?
A little bit, yeah. I first started getting into burlesque when I was living in Chicago. I became familiar. Well, what happened was I was cast in an original play that included burlesque in it, and I had to do several burlesque numbers in the play, and so I became familiar with burlesque basically through that. And so then I kind of started looking into other burlesque performers in Chicago, and one performer that really inspired me right off the bat is named Lady Jack. She's based in Chicago, and she's one of the most underrated performers, I think, in the world. She also has a background in theater and dance, and she creates these incredibly interesting, dynamic, diverse characters with these incredibly interesting stories that are just so beautifully choreographed. And she just creates basically an entire story like in 5 minutes. I mean, it's just like this, like a complete play in 5 minutes. And she's just incredible. And she was really one of my first inspirations. And then kind of after I discovered her, I started looking into more outlets of burlesque in Chicago, and I became familiar with Red Hot Annie. Who runs Vaudzilla Studios in Chicago. And ironically, I became closer with her. Like, I met her in Chicago, but I became friends with her actually here in Paris when she would come to perform in Paris when she would be on tour. And she just is really a queen and a pillar in the international burlesque community as far as I'm concerned. And she's just so generous and kind and helpful, and is just so kind. Yeah. She wants the best for everyone. She wants everyone to succeed. She's just she gave me so much advice and help, and
Oh, that's great.
She's just
I've heard wonderful things. We had her. She was in Paris recently, and I know my troupe Burlesque Moulin had her teaching some classes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was in the States at that point, so I didn't get to meet her. But I heard she's really fun to work with, and so I'd like to get her on this podcast. Maybe I'll send her an email and do a little name dropping there.
I'm sure she would.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Cool. That's great. So, I mean, kind of along those same lines, do you have, and this doesn't have to be burlesque related, this can be just life related. Do you have a hero? Who's your hero and why?
I can't say that I necessarily have a specific hero.
Okay.
I would say I'm inspired by women today and women of the past who have broken barriers, who have not been afraid to stand up for themselves, who have not been afraid to make changes and make their voice heard, and basically make the world a better place for women. I'm basically inspired by any woman who wasn't afraid to be herself or wasn't afraid to be different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, it's fitting that you mentioned that, because of course, what was it when we're excuse me, when we're recording this, it was yesterday, I think, was the anniversary of women getting the right to vote in the U.S. I believe. I saw it on Facebook. So it's really that strength in women and being able to stand up. I mean, obviously that was for something that was very important for all women, but even nowadays, just to stand up for themselves, we're seeing a lot of women's rights things jumping around on social media. A lot of talking about women's bodies and how women's bodies are viewed. I'm seeing a lot more Hollywood actresses that are standing up against how Hollywood treats women actresses. Yeah, it's really interesting the time we live in. It may not seem quite as serious as women's suffrage and things like that, but I think it is.
Yeah, we're really talking about it on a more intelligent level too. I mean, really starting to talk about, I think, like the very inherent sexist and misogynistic ideas that are basically instilled in not just men but in women, like in everyone.
Absolutely.
That are just instilled in us so deep that we don't even realize they're there until somebody finally says, "Wait a second, no, this still isn't right." we still have a really long way to go, so I mean, we're talking about stuff I think that we really, at least on, on social media, things that haven't really been talked about, fully, to an extent that hasn't been talked about fully. So yeah, it's exciting times. There's a long way to go, but I'm glad.
No, you're
glad women at
absolutely
least
right.
seem to be smart. Smarting up. I shouldn't say that. But we're talking about it more. We're becoming more aware of it ourselves, and we're starting to stand up for ourselves.
Absolutely. Like you say, yeah, awareness is one of the big things. And just, and that's one of the good things about the internet is that these ideas are able to be spread a bit more as well. And
Yeah.
the things that that I see new things every day when I'm subscribed to, for example, everyday feminism, things like that. Although I don't consider myself a strong, extreme feminist. I mean, I am a woman, so I am a feminist. I believe in equality, and some of the things that I see that just, I feel like on a daily or at least weekly basis, I feel like my mind is blown because it talks about things in ways that I just hadn't thought of before. And I think, wow, you're right. That is not quite equal, or that is marginalizing, or whatever the situation is. Yeah.
Yeah. Social media makes that information so much more accessible now. It's like,
it really does.
Takes it out of the universities and like shares it with everybody. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's great. I think I like that answer. Who's your hero? Basically just all women who stand up for what they believe in.
Pretty
I
much.
think that's really great. Yeah. So speaking more about your act specifically, as I said in the intro, I love your acts. You were definitely, you've been the highlight of every show that I've seen you in, even when you're just stage kittening. It's just so much fun. For those of you who don't know, a stage kitten is the person who kind of comes on between the acts and cleans up on stage and gets everything off stage and resets the stage. Correct, Kirby? Is that how you'd say it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a backstage thing you don't even notice, but sometimes they're able to really make it fun and cute. And I always love when you're doing that for Letting Go. It's fun.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. But as far as your acts go, where do you typically find inspiration for your acts?
Pretty organically most of the time. Mm-hmm. Normally I'll just be inspired by a piece of music. And I'll be listening to something and it'll just sort of strike me, and like images will pop up in my head, and I'll just sort of run with it. I'll just sort of kind of let more images come until I have sort of a base of a storyline, and then I'll kind of work it out, work it out physically. So usually pretty organically, like not planned. Although occasionally I'll get an idea for something and then I'll search for the music. So, it depends. Mostly organically, just with music, but it depends.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to be the same. I think music is what really inspires me. I know some people get started with just the story. They have a character idea in their head or something like that. But for me, it's typically as well, it's the music. I'll see something and I'll just be, I'll be doing the dishes and I'll kind of start bopping around and then it kind of goes from there.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah, cool. All right, so I want to get kind of real for a second, and I'd love to hear like a real story. I want you to kind of, give us the real feeling. And this isn't necessarily something that we all want to talk about all the time, but I'd love to hear, because I really want to show everybody the reality of being a burlesque or a burlesque performer, or just a performer in general. What do you think? What has been one of the worst moments of your burlesque or performance journey? Just a moment where you just things were not good and you were not happy.
I can't say that I've had like many terrible moments, to be honest. Like, I mean, I knock on wood. I mean, like, I've been doing burlesque long enough, I would say, to have anything significantly disappointing happen. I mean, like, I remember, like, especially when I first moved to France and I barely spoke French, I was always super nervous whenever I would. I mean, even then, like, the theater always felt like home, but I was still so nervous. I mean, I was so nervous, like, anytime I would go to a show, even like just as an audience member, and especially the first time I even like stage kit in a show in Paris, I was so nervous I almost threw up.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
I just it was like so familiar yet so strange, and like, I just didn't know what to expect. And so I guess I was just so worried that I would fuck it up. You know what I mean? That I would just fuck it up from the beginning. But it wasn't. I mean, everyone was so awesome and kind and understanding, and so it all worked out really well. But I did have sort of like an epic moment. I wouldn't say it was bad or good, but kind of epic.
Oh yeah, tell us.
The first burlesque show that I did, that I was talking about before, the theatrical show, which included burlesque, I was doing my big solo number where I was dancing and singing and stripping at the same time. And at one point, in the choreography, I was supposed to grab a chair and swing it around, and I was eventually going to be standing on it. Well, when I grabbed the back of the chair, I didn't realize that there was like, there must have been some sharp piece of metal on there that I didn't notice. And I literally like sliced my hand open.
Oh no.
But I was so in the zone that I didn't even feel it. And I didn't notice. And I was literally for about half the number, for at least a few minutes, I was literally like spraying blood all over the stage, and like, I mean, I shouldn't say spraying, but I mean dripping blood, I should say. I wasn't that injured, but yeah, like dripping blood all over the stage, all over my costume, and I had no idea. And here I am, like doing this like sexy striptease with blood like dripping down my arm.
Oh my god! And it was visible to the audience; they could see it.
Oh yeah, they could see it. Yeah.
Oh my god!
And I mean, I was, like I said, I was so in the zone that like I was just like, I was just doing my thing, singing my song, taking my clothes off.
I tell you, that's a true performer right there. You just work right through it. You didn't even notice.
I literally didn't even feel it. I felt no pain whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah. Until I finally like noticed that it was bleeding. I like tried to like close my hand, like, to like prevent the blood from, just try to stop the blood flow. And yeah. And then of course my costume was like white and yellow. So that was fun, getting those blood stains out. But so anyway, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was fine. It was kind of funny. It's like one of those like theater, because theater moments, where
absolutely.
Like,
and now you've got a good story to tell.
And now I've got a good story. It was epic. I can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's funny. All right.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So I can imagine, I mean, those moments, I mean, if anyone's a performer, whether it's burlesque or theater, we've all had those kind of moments where just something, maybe not that extreme with blood dripping down on our costumes, but those kind of moments where you have to just play on, you have to make it work, you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Party on.
That happens a lot in burlesque because, I mean, it's not just a matter of like, remembering your choreography and your lyrics and your blocking, et cetera, et cetera. It's the logistics of literally removing clothing in like an artful and interesting way, in a sensuous way. You know what I mean? Or not necessarily sensuous, but an artful, interesting way, at least. And there's that. I mean, anytime you include props when in a scene, which for burlesque, clothing is your props, basically.
Absolutely.
You're asking to be fucked. Because
it's true.
Fuck you every time. So I mean, like, you basically have to practice messing up. I mean, I try to practice like messing up, my articles, taking my clothing off because I know it's going to happen.
Exactly. That's one of the first things we learn to do is to kind of, when that zipper gets stuck, to still be able to keep that face and make it something sexy, or make it funny, or make it something and not get tripped up in that.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. So you had kind of that epic moment that was just, we don't know. Again, you said bad or good. Have you had a particular really, really good moment in burlesque? Like just a moment where you just were on the adrenaline. It was just what you would consider maybe the best moment of your career so far?
Well, I mean, a highlight would be, I won Best Newcomer at the Dublin Burlesque Festival in 2014, and I was really
fabulous,
really pleased and honored.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, like, I'm always really touched when after a show, like especially someone I don't know, like a stranger, will come up to me and just say something really nice about my performance. Sometimes they'll get really specific. Like, I really liked when you did this. I really liked this. This made me feel this, when I saw you do that. And they just give like this really touching feedback. And it's such a wonderful feeling to know that I did something that affected them in some way, touched them in some way. And they're, hopefully gonna remember that and keep that, and I mean, that's the power. That's the power of theater. It can affect the way that we see the rest of the world. It can affect the way that we see other people. And maybe, I wouldn't say burlesque is like a high art per se, but it's still really touching to know that whatever I do on stage, that it touches somebody and it compels them enough to actually tell me that.
Absolutely. And I think, okay, maybe burlesque, some wouldn't consider it a super high art form, but I mean, that's one of the things about burlesque is that it's so much more than just taking off clothes on stage. It really has the power to, I mean, of course, just entertain and have fun, but even beneath all of that, it can change people's minds about their body, about femininity, masculinity, about any of those things. It really has the power to do something.
Right. And the great thing about burlesque too is it's such it's interactive. It's like, I mean, without the connection between the performer and the audience, the act dies, basically. Or at least that's how I feel on stage.
I agree. Yeah.
So the audience gets to be participatory in your performance, and so
exactly,
and
that adds a whole new dimension.
Yeah, it adds a whole new dimension.
That's very true. I know my first burlesque act, actually, I was the showcase that you performed in with Burlesque Mulan. That was my first time doing the burlesque on stage. And initially when I was developing that act, it was very much, it was not inclusive of the audience because it doesn't, of course, it doesn't have to, we don't have to specifically connect with the audience, but I did find that something was missing. I know it's possible and many artists do these kind of inner numbers where they're not interacting with the audience as much. But for me, I definitely felt like there was something kind of missing without that connection to the audience.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think, whether it's in your burlesque career or just in your life, maybe something about moving to Paris or something, what is the biggest risk that you've ever taken in your life?
Well, I mean, aside from moving to Paris.
Did I ruin it for you? Yeah. I
guess that's a given.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think just doing burlesque at all, just becoming a solo artist at all was pretty significant for me. Because, even though I'd been to theater school and I had my degree and, I had done a lot of stuff, I really lacked confidence. I really did not believe that I was creative or talented enough to create my own work. I really, truly believed that. And kind of, moving to Paris and kind of, having this sort of blank page in front of me, I just had to take advantage of the opportunity to just try. And for the first time in my career, I really listened to myself. I listened to my own creative voice, and I didn't judge myself. And I just sort of let myself go and let myself create. And, and that's, it started from there, and it just sort of, spiraled from there in a positive way.
That's a huge risk to take. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I think we all struggle with, any kind of artists or other, writers, anybody. I mean, just to really get over that and to just put themselves out there.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, so the next section of our interview is what I like to call Pick Your Poison, but I promise it's nothing scary. I've got, looks like I've got 8 different questions here, and they're just random things that I thought of would be interesting to find out about you.
Okay.
So what I'm going to have you do is just pick a number, and I'll give you the question, and you can just kind of let us know what your answer is.
Okay.
So 1 through 8, which number would you like?
7.
Number 7. All right, this is a good one. So, if you could spend 48 hours in the body of someone else, anyone in the world, who would you choose and what would you do?
Oh my gosh.
48 hours, no more, no less, male, female. I suppose we could do animals if you really wanted to be an animal.
Really? Okay, then I would really like to be my cat. 48 hours. I'm so serious.
That is probably the best answer possible.
Seriously, it's like something that I genuinely think about from time to time. I really would honestly, sometimes I just, the middle of a stressful moment during the day, I just look over at her and she's just on her back, sleeping on her back with her paws up in the air. And I'm like, your life is so good. Your life is just so perfect. Sometimes I just want to switch bodies with my cat just for a day and just not have a goddamn worry in the world, But yeah.
I think my favorite part is that you've actually really thought about this before.
Thought about this. I have, yes. I mean, I don't I don't lose sleep over it, but you know what I mean. Sometimes it would just be fun to be a cat for a day and not have a care in the world.
It's true. I mean, really, when you watch cats, they just don't give a shit about anything.
They don't. They are so
and
content.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. My what's your cat's name?
We just call her Poo Poo. Poo Poo cat.
That's lovely. Okay, cool. My mom has a cat named Morgan Freeman, and she named it that because basically Morgan Freeman makes every movie better. Right? Anything he's in, even if it's a shitty movie, he makes it better, and her cat makes everything better. So she thought it was a fitting name. But yeah, I look over at Morgan Freeman sometimes when I'm visiting her at home, and he's just chilling, just doing what he wants. Might go have a little something to drink, a little
bit of
food,
take a little poop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not a
find a Q-tip to play with, whatever.
Life is good when you're
I love it. I love that answer. Yeah. That's fabulous. Cool. All right. So the next section here, we're going to do just a quick fire, this or that. So I've got a list of a bunch of things, 2 different options, and you can just choose whichever one you like. Just, to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. We do this. All right. Ready, set. Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Day or night?
Day.
City or country?
City.
Mountains or ocean?
Mountains.
Classic or neo-burlesque?
Classic.
Comedy or tragedy?
Comedy.
Superman or Batman?
Batman.
All right. Wine or beer?
Beer.
Sleep or sex?
Ooh.
I had a feeling this would be the tough one.
Oh, no. Yeah. I'm gonna have to say sleep.
Sleep. Being honest, I like it. That's great.
No, if you sleep well, then you have better sex.
It's true. It's true. Absolutely. They're both good. Heels or bare feet?
Bare feet. Definitely.
Bare feet. I know you like to perform in bare feet. I've seen a couple of your.
Yeah. Well, in my day-to-day life and definitely on stage, I prefer to be bare feet.
I love how I look in heels, but wearing them is just such a pain.
It is. It is. I mean, it hinders your movement, obviously. At least for me, like even when you wear dance heels. So, whenever I can, I do barefoot. But I also make an effort to decorate my feet in some way. I made these little sparkly barefoot sandals that I wear on stage. So
I love that. That's a really good idea because just plain bare feet isn't that great.
Yeah, I try to complete the costume, complete the look a little bit there. So.
Cool. I love it. And the very last one, it might be a doozy for you. I don't know. Paris or Chicago?
Oh, Paris. Definitely
Paris.
Yeah.
Your new home.
Yeah. It's, there's a lot to love about Chicago, and sometimes Paris is a really difficult city to live in, but
it sure can be.
It feels like home. It really does feel like home.
Good. Do you still go back to visit Chicago ever?
Not really, no, because I don't have family in Chicago. All my family is actually in California, where I'm from originally. But that's cool. I mean, I miss the city itself, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, next, I just have a couple last questions before we say goodbye. And with things like burlesque, I think all of us who are interested in the field, whether we're performers or audience members, we love finding out about burlesque things. We love reading, but it's hard because there are a few, but there's not a lot of condensed places to find information, to find news. So how do you stay current with the industry, with burlesque news and all of that?
Mostly through social media, I guess. Mm-hmm. I read a lot of articles by industry professionals about burlesque and burlesque-related things.
Cool.
There's one that I like a lot called 21st Century Burlesque. I think it's one of the first and probably the most prominent burlesque publication. They're online. And then there's another one that I like a lot that I just discovered recently called Tease Bang Boom.
Tease Bang Boom?
Yes. And cool. I think they give it's more like advice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But Red Hot Annie is a contributor to that as well. So, cool. I highly recommend that one as well.
That's great. I hadn't heard of that one, so I'll check that out, and I'll link both of those, the 21st Century Burlesque and the Tease Bang Boom?
Yes.
Okay, Tease Bang Boom. And I'll link those up in the show notes so that everybody can check those out as well. So, So we've got articles, things like that. And of course, I mean, there's lots of videos milling around, out there in the internet universe on YouTube and other places. Do you have any favorites, anything that you've discovered recently or classics that we should check out? Any videos?
Well, it's not necessarily burlesque related, but there is it's not on YouTube either, but it's a series of videos that I've found recently that I really like. They're actually little mini docs profiling 6 different female circus artists working in the UK, and it's called Circus Girls.
Circus Girls, that's great. That's cool.
And it's really beautifully filmed, beautifully edited, with really interesting insight into these women's lives and their training and their philosophies and methods and stuff like that. So yeah, and I think you can find that just by Googling Circus Girls series or emission or whatever. So,
that's awesome. That's really cool. That would be really interesting to watch because that's a kind of an industry I don't know a lot about. And I think a lot of us, it's kind of a mysterious industry. So great. I will find that. And just like with the other 2 sites, I will link it up in the show notes here so that our listeners can go directly there. That's cool. Thank you for that. All right, well, that about wraps it up. Before we go, just let us know, because I'm sure now we all love Kirby and we want to keep up with what she has going on and everything. How can we keep up with you, see what you have going on, and how can we get in contact with you?
Well, you can always follow me on Facebook. Kirby Marzelle is the name to look up. And you can also follow me on my website, which is kirbymarzelle.com.
Fabulous. Very cool. Yeah, I was on there earlier, and you have some amazing photos there. And I assume that there's a contact page there for you as well, for anyone who's interested in booking or anything. Very cool. Well, Kirby, thank you so much for spending your rainy, what is it today, a Thursday? Your rainy Thursday with us. We appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience, or
I don't think
before we say goodbye?
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for being on. All right. Well, we will talk to you again soon, and I'm sure we'll see you around in the Paris world.
Yep.
Thanks again for listening, ladies and gents. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Just a quick reminder, on Thursdays, I'll be bringing you a Hot Tips episode about how to survive your first burlesque performance, so stay tuned for that. And next week, I'm really excited to be bringing you an interview with not 1, but 2 burlesque performers. We get a 2-for-1 all at one time on Monday. It'll be the Saucy Pear Cabaret. So check out that. Also, please head over to burlesquestripdown.com and make sure you've joined to be a Burlesque Strip Down Insider. So that'll sign you up for our email list where you'll receive all of the latest information. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Stay sexy.